Welcome to the BVA Boardroom Podcast. We have an amazing guest today. Sometimes I read a bio, Brandon, sometimes I don't, but you're like what was it? Was it the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the world?
I wish.
Oh, you are. Let me tell you. And whoever's listening to this, we have mostly business leaders listen to this, but it's been an honor to know you because I've known you for a while, and watching what you do, I follow you closely because you have a nice social media presence that I follow very closely. But so Brandon Fugal, chairman and co-owner of Colliers International in Utah, the number one commercial real estate firm in the Intermountain West, and one of the leading firms in the world. Prominent business leader. He's recognized as a market leader nationwide in commercial real estate, entrepreneur of the year in the Western region. Before merging and partnering with Colliers, Brandon was co-founder and owner of Coldwell Banker Commercial Advisors, where he was the number one everywhere for many, many years. He's the go-to for all things commercial real estate in the region. This gets really interesting. Purchased the Skinwalker Ranch in 2016.
And that's Skinwalker. Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch. Sorry, misspoke there in 2016. And on the episodes you can watch on the History Channel, The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. We'll talk a little bit about that. And been honored as 40 Under 40 Real Estate Forum, one of the 100 most influential people in Utah. This guy is everything, but more importantly, Brandon, a good friend. Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast, and it'll be fun getting caught up.
Well, it's an honor to be with you. It's been great to watch your leadership and impact on the Intermountain West, especially in Idaho, which is our sister market, and to see everything that you've been able to accomplish in the public and private sector has been. It's been exciting. So it's great to join the cast and look forward to addressing any of these topics. I do have a diversity of projects that I'm working on, and I'm currently living a very interesting life with respect to just the grand scope of what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's good to be with you.
I'm going to go back. You probably don't remember the first time I met you, but it's got to be, it's coming up on 20 years ago. And I remember the first time I met you walking out of the room going, that guy is the real deal. So you essentially became the number one broker of office and, all real estate down in Utah, and grew that very quickly. But you always, Brandon, you were always a community leader. You were always a thought leader. You were all over the place, whether it had to do with philanthropy or taking care of people or vision or creativity. That was your gig all along. Tell us a little bit about, has it always been part of you? Tell us a little bit about growing up, and has your mind always been so driven for creativity, vision, and leadership?
Oh, good questions. I grew up in small town Utah. It's in a little community that I still reside in, Pleasant Grove, Utah. That's right at the mouth of Mount Timpanogos, or right at the base of Mount Timpanogos. And from a very young age, I had an interest in business. And by the time I was a junior and senior in high school, I had my own subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal and Business Week, and was obsessed with knowing not only who the power players were that really have an impact on our world and the landscape of our communities, but how they got into the positions that they're in. And as a senior in high school at Pleasant Grove, I conducted some research as I was approaching my 18th year into what business or career path would afford me the opportunity to work with those captains of industry, those people that I was reading about that were being profiled in not only Business Week and the Wall Street Journal, but more importantly, even the local periodicals, Utah Business Magazine at the time, and the business pages of the local newspapers. And commercial real estate, in my view, at age 18 years old, provided that path to be able to potentially interact with those key decision makers. And if you look at business in general, anyone in business has to have a real estate strategy. It doesn't matter whether they're a scrappy startup starting out in the garage or a Fortune 100 company. You have to have a real estate strategy. And that's one thing that binds us in the world and is a commonality in business. And so I launched my career right out of high school, 1 week out of high school, in commercial real estate with an emphasis on corporate real estate. Sold my first office park when I was 19. Built a proprietary database because I learned quickly that the most powerful commodity is information, and the ability to leverage that information and that proprietary intelligence in order to drive results for clients and for your own business. And so I built a proprietary database back in 1991 to 92 at a time when most people in commercial real estate really weren't using technology to their advantage. And
hey, what did your father do? Tell me a little bit about influence.
Yeah.
I've never asked you that.
No, my dad wasn't in real estate at all. In fact, my parents thought I was crazy for seeking out a career in commercial real estate. I grew up digging ditches. In fact, all of my teenage years, for the most part, were spent on heavy construction crews. My dad was the CEO of a utility construction firm that was putting in natural gas and telecommunications infrastructure. They were on the verge of bankruptcy through the 80s, barely keeping the business open, and they made a few bets on fiber optics, on the rise of fiber optic technology becoming the new backbone of our communications infrastructure. And so my dad ultimately grew it to be the largest utility construction company in the Intermountain region. But by the time the company was employing, I think, 700 professionals, you mean the family business was employing that many people. I had already established myself in commercial real estate and had selected that career path forever. But it's interesting. My dad was EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2001 for Western Region, and I was EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2016. Completely unrelated businesses. I'd never taken a penny from my father. In fact, I kind of went against conventional wisdom because I was the eldest son of an eldest son that had built what I would have been the fourth generation of what became a juggernaut. My father grew it to be the largest utility construction firm in the Intermountain West, and most of our fiber optic infrastructure was installed by them. So you'll appreciate this, Tommy.
What's the most
when I was sick? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the most important thing you learned from him? Because
when I was 16, I was shipped off for a whole summer to work and live in what was the name of that town? Hang on. It's in Idaho. Preston, Idaho.
Yeah.
So I lived my father's company got the contract to do the fiber optic line from Brigham City, Utah to Pocatello, Idaho, and I worked a whole summer on heavy construction crews out of town, and I lived in this really rough apartment above Main Street in downtown Preston, Idaho, and I learned
the metropolis.
Exactly.
The metropolis.
The most valuable thing I gained from that experience, and I'll never be able to repay the incredible example that my father provided for me. It was the value of not only hard work and being able to put in a full day, work sometimes 16 to 18-hour days if needed, but also to respect people and learn to work with people from completely different backgrounds and walks of life. The construction business draws all types, and you have to learn to work with everyone from the rough and tumble, people that are a little bit rough around the edges, to those who may be of your same cultural background to a degree. But it was a remarkable experience for me as a young man, as a teenager, to work out on those construction crews. I learned what I also did not want to do for a living. I felt like I was more inclined to work with the people I was reading about, the captains of industry, and wanted to have an impact on the communities, the business community at large, and commercial real estate provided that vehicle. So right out of high school, within days of graduating, I got my commercial real estate license and plunged into the world of primarily office brokerage and investment real estate. And it's been a wild ride. I've launched other companies since that time. It involved. I have a scientific device company that I spun out of Brigham Young University a number of years ago that is growing rapidly right now. I had a software company that I co-founded. I'm involved with a number of other enterprises that are outside of the realm of commercial real estate, but commercial real estate remains at the core of what I do.
I don't even know where to go next, but I think where we'll go next is I have a long list, and I know we've got a limited amount of time here.
No.
So can we talk a little bit? I think I was with you in Salt Lake a few weeks ago, and I walked away from that table going, oh my gosh, this guy, I mean, you forgot more than most of us will know about statistics and who's doing what. And so right now, the office market, which we're pretty heavily in, is really taking a hit, especially in big cities, but also in Salt Lake City. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing and challenges that may be coming its way, and what the trends are. I think we talked a little bit about flight to quality and how important it is to have, but I think I've never heard anyone say it as concisely as you did of kind of where we've been and where we're headed on the office side of real estate.
Great. Tommy, what we have witnessed over the course of the last several years is a secular shift in the way that people utilize office space, in the way that they even perceive their workspaces. The pandemic brought a whole set of both challenges and opportunities. And in the wake of those challenges and opportunities, we've seen record high vacancy. We've seen an incredible amount of space dropped on the market as a result of a lot of companies, especially large corporate occupiers, giving space back to landlords and changing the way that they really operate within their space. The remote working or hybrid working model is something that is still in a state of flux and is having an impact on office utilization and decisions. As a result, you're seeing not only record high vacancy across the country, but you couple with that the interest rate increases, and you have a perfect storm of potential disruption that we are witnessing right now, hour to hour, happening in real time, primarily in the first tier markets. The coastal markets, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, but even markets like Texas, Houston, for example, the fourth largest MSA in the country, is grappling with a lot of vacancy. I believe there's a silver lining to all of this, though. I think there is a flight to quality. Those companies that prioritize their workspace environments for recruitment and retention and take advantage of the incredible opportunities right now being offered are able to strengthen their recruitment and retention like never before, and I think realize cost savings. The amount of concessions being offered in today's market, it's unprecedented for companies, and it's regardless of size. It doesn't matter whether you're a small startup or whether you are a large Fortune 500 company. The opportunities exist to really, I think, not only reposition your facilities planning roadmap for the future, but also to realize incredible cost savings. On a weekly basis, I'm closing transactions with headquarter requirements, and the one thing that we're seeing is without question a flight to quality and amenities. High priority and focus is being placed on those locations that offer amenities, that offer not only fitness facilities and restaurants and services, but also meeting spaces, business lounges, and other quality of life benefits that transcend the typical office experience. And so we're seeing a transformational impact and shift take place across the country, and there are going to be some pains. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a record number of defaults as a result of a lot of these properties being repositioned that are underwater from a valuation perspective, given new underwriting requirements and vacancy having an impact on that. But it's an interesting time, and I think we're right in the middle of it. I don't think that we've seen the worst of it. I think the next 12 to 24 months we will witness not only some of the greatest challenges that commercial real estate has ever faced, but I believe we're going to witness some of the greatest opportunities and a transfer of wealth, if you will, that will usher in a new era. I think what you're doing with your development company is unique. I think it's brilliant. What your development company is doing, and I've been watching what BVA has been doing to position for kind of the next wave of growth. You're bringing to market mixed-use development projects that actually provide not only the amenities, but a lifestyle advantage that not only companies gravitate to in today's environment, but I think people are wanting to really take advantage of. And I have to applaud your efforts. I would say that if you weren't on the the line and having this discussion, you really are helping to lead that dialogue and really helping to bring community development to the next level. It's going to be required.
I gotta thank you for two things. One, Grant Lamerson, dude. Oh my gosh.
Top capital markets, top investment professional in the region, if not the Western United States.
Brandon, that guy is the real deal. So a guy named Grant Lamerson's one of your partners down in Utah now, and he's helping us with some of the financing stuff we're doing. And
just not to interject, Tommy, but Grant relocated his family in the midst of the pandemic from the Bay Area to Utah. And they looked at every market across the country. They didn't have any Utah ties or any special ties to the Intermountain West. There wasn't some religious imperative or cultural draw. It was purely quality of life. It was to be able to take advantage of a better quality of life and a more business-friendly environment to raise his family in that he feels, and I think most people feel, is being challenged in some of the primary markets like the Bay Area, for example. And so not only did he pick up his family and relocate to Utah and the Intermountain West, but he's now leveraging his national capital markets expertise in his practice. And that's one of the benefits of remote working and being in a global community now, where we can actually zoom in, where you and I can have a conversation, a dynamic conversation on a podcast, and we can be on different continents and be transacting business and developing relationships of trust. Well, Grant, in a brilliant way, is leading our Western region and national capital markets group for Colliers. And he's able to enjoy that quality of life of raising his family in suburban Utah at the same time.
Well, this is going to be one of those, Brandon. I'm gonna owe you for a long time to come. So thank you. What an introduction. He's been fantastic. Second thing is, I know you and Fred have a long relationship, and he thinks so highly of you. But maybe just one comment on Fred, because Hi, Brandon, I'm around that guy, and I want to be a sponge. I want to be a fly on his wall. I just watch him interact with people, and the way he conducts himself in business, and the way his mind works, and the vision he has. You hit on it, for creating these spaces that aren't just offices. They aren't just retail. He's brought it together where it's a genuine, the human need and a human element to socialize and come together and have places where you can take families and you can work. I'm learning so much from that guy, but I know he loves you and appreciates you. And
he's an incredible example. For those tuning in and watching this podcast, Tommy is referencing Fred Bruning. formerly the co-founder and CEO of a company called CenterCal, who has developed I believe he's developed the premier mixed-use lifestyle developments in the Western United States over the course of the last 20 years. And I've had the great privilege of working with Fred and his team on several projects from the ground up. In fact, they had not entered the Intermountain West. They had not really dipped their toe into the Utah-Idaho pool until I had the privilege of picking them up at the airport and introducing them to a unique site in Farmington, Utah, which has become really the premier mixed-use, transit-oriented development lifestyle center. It's called Station Park. Station Park became the model for success, which they then took to Idaho, to the Treasure Valley, and to Meridian Town Center, the Meridian Project. And you can check me and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it not only raised the bar, but it set a new standard in Idaho for mixed-use development that you've really helped take forward. And now, with Fred partnering with BVA, you have an unbeatable combination of expertise, an unmatched track record for working with the who's who of retail and hospitality, and the ability to create centers of gravity for community that bring people together, places that transcend real estate or live, work, play, and actually become a part of the heartbeat of the community, a vital part of that whole experience of living. And I don't think there's anyone better than Fred Bruning. And to hear, I mean, I think it's one of the greatest announcements of the last few weeks going into 2024, to hear that you guys have partnered on a new development strategy that is going to bring, I think, these projects to the forefront for the future.
Well, we're super humbled by it, and thank you for your role in getting us together and making it happen. I've got two more big subjects, and let's decide which one you want to do first or second. I want to talk about Skinwalker. I'm going to save that till last. Let's talk. I actually don't know where you're going to stand on this, but one of the guys I love following, and I consider him a friend. I would do anything for him. Talk to us a little bit about Spencer Cox, your governor.
Yeah.
And in the environment we're in, some of the things he's doing, and I actually don't know what you're going to say because we've never talked about it, but I just love that guy.
Yeah, Governor Cox is actually receiving some really positive attention and kudos on a national basis. He's trying to build an environment where people can agree to disagree, where leaders in the public and private sector, but specifically in the public sector, can come together and work on solutions and find consensus, find common ground. And I think that's one thing that is missing from the state of politics today is a focus on common ground and finding what we have in common and building on that. We live in such an unusually polarized time. I don't think we've ever seen such polarization in our communities, in our economy, and I think that disparity that exists and the contention that is born out of that disconnect, it's not helpful. And I have to give Governor Cox great credit. I think he is trying to elevate the discussion. I'll tell you what else he's doing. He's been slashing taxes. Utah has been reducing taxes, and they've been taking that surplus that they have received through the pandemic, through economic growth, and they have been giving back to the community and the taxpayer. Governor Cox is very wise in that he recognizes that the federal government and the state government doesn't produce anything. They're essentially there because we pay taxes, and they are supposed to be providing the right vehicle and the right platform to see people succeed, to see businesses succeed, to see the communities, our health and human services succeed and our infrastructure improved in order to meet the needs of the communities. And I have to give him a lot of credit. It's been fun to watch not only his leadership in Utah capture national attention and catapult us into a leading position continually in all of the rankings, but the caliber of the discussion and the professionalism of that discussion to be carried forward. So nothing but compliments, and I'm very proud of what we are, and I think we're all the beneficiaries of that in the Intermountain West. All of our fates are intertwined, wouldn't you say?
I agree, and I think he has a great relationship with Governor Little, who's doing similar things. I think for those of you that are hearing for this for the first time, if you want to follow Governor Cox, he calls it Disagree Better. Is his kind of program, and he's been doing it all over the nation. Anyway, I'm really, really proud of him and what he's doing. Okay, finally, and I want to spend some time. You are a collector. Your memorabilia. I follow you and the stuff you are doing, but let's talk Skinwalker. So I got to tell you a quick story. So probably 20 something years ago, we have big family reunion. We're sitting around a fire, and one of my cousins tells a story about Skinwalker Ranch, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, I still remember, like, all the kids and everyone, they hear this story, and it's just this terrifying story. And it's become a tradition, and then every year, hey, tell us again this story. So there's Skinwalker Ranch. There's this ranch in southern Utah that's very famous for having paranormal things. And then all of a sudden I see you buy it. And I'm like, Brandon bought it? And then, Brandon, I am like a fanboy. I'm following along. I'm watching the episodes. I'm watching. What I love about it is the critics, the dudes that go there and try to do. I love following them. I love how you interact with them and how professional you stay. It's cool to know you and watch it happening. Talk about how it started and this wild ride you're on.
Thank you so much, and I'm flattered that you're following my journey with that very unique project. What is, without question, the most scientifically studied paranormal location in the world has captured global attention. 7.5 years ago, I had the opportunity to secretly acquire this very enigmatic 512-acre piece of property in the middle of the Uinta Basin, which is in northeastern Utah, that has been the site of more UFO activity, bizarre cattle mutilations, and other strange phenomena for decades, if not millennia. Many people don't realize this, but I acquired the property as a skeptic. I'd never seen a UFO, a ghost, an orb, or anything of the sort, and I had grown quite skeptical of those topics and believed that there was a 95% probability when I acquired it that there was a natural prosaic explanation for what had been reported. I believed that it could most likely be attributed to a combination of groupthink coupled with maybe something in the geology, something naturally that was occurring that was creating either hallucinogenic effects or playing into the mythology of the area and the cultural traditions. I found out I was wrong. There is absolute truth, of course, to what is happening. And I went from being an open-minded skeptic to not a believer, but an experiencer. The things I have witnessed with multiple witnesses at my side that have been documented, involving third-party, credentialed professionals and experts, truly defies conventional explanation, and it's been a great privilege. I never wanted my identity associated with these topics. In fact, not only did I buy it with the intention of remaining, private and keeping my identity as the owner confidential, but I never really intended to bring television cameras onto the property in any way. I wanted to keep it a very sequestered and closed project. And it was only after a year of the History Channel knocking on the door every week for an audience to pitch me on the opportunity to bring the finest documentary professionals on the planet in to actually record what my team was witnessing, but I think the opportunity to allow the public a peek inside the gates, if you will, of this very unique place that I ultimately acquiesced. So I owned it. I purchased it in April of 2016 and did not come out publicly as the owner until March of 2020. And this was after really 4 years of pouring millions of dollars privately into funding the scientific research, the platforms, and pulling together a team, a diversified team of individuals in order to engage the environment and document the reality of what is happening there. And now, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which is our docu-series effort on the History Channel, which is now going to be entering its 5th season in the months ahead, is a global hit. In fact, there have been many weeks this last year where it led cable. It was the #1 watched program on the top 50 of cable. It was the #1 downloaded.
Buddy, this has got to be exciting. I mean, you're talking like this, like no big deal, but it's like the #1 cable show that is it just been a complete trip that did you ever imagine that it would have done this?
No. I would have never imagined. And now we have a spin-off series. Last year we unveiled a spin-off series called Beyond Skinwalker that ended up being a hit as well. So we have 2 hit series. Both are entering new seasons in the next few months and will bring to the public an unprecedented inside look into topics that have I think baffled people for generations, and are bringing scientific rigor and discipline to the table in order to separate the signal from the noise, if you will. And so I think it's the greatest frontier science effort right now. I mean, we have some incredible individuals engaged. I mean, the former executive director of the International Space Station National Laboratory is a partner now with the technology and the research out there. I have retired 4-star General Lance Lord, who is former head of U.S. Space Command, who is also assisting with the effort, and a host of professionals that are bringing not only expertise, but equipment and scientific backgrounds to help us understand the nature of what we are interacting with. It's funny, Tommy, I'm asked on a daily basis, are you dealing with beings from other worlds? Is this aliens from other planets that are visiting the Earth, or is it interdimensional or multidimensional phenomena? Maybe even time travelers, or is it angels and demons? Are you dealing with entities that are involved with spiritual phenomena?
They took the words right out of my mouth. Because here's the deal. Here's the deal, Brandon. My son, I have 4 kids. My son is my oldest. And he studied this forever. It's been his thing, right? So we talk about the pyramids and how they came, and everything you just said. He will give a soliloquy on each thing, and he's got his theories. And he was we had a long discussion last night just about the pyramids. And so what can you tell me, man? What's the inside scoop from the guy who knows? What is it? And are we safe?
Truth be known, the answer is based on the data and what we have documented. I believe the most accurate answer is D, all the above. I think what we are witnessing is a diversity. We're witnessing a convergence of phenomena. We're seeing a diversity of origins and agendas at play. There are malevolent forces. There are benevolent forces. There are benign entities as well. I'm sad to state that a number of my people have ended up in the hospital with mysterious illnesses and injuries that defy any natural conventional explanation. I mean, my ranch superintendent ended up almost dying. He was in the emergency room in the hospital, afflicted with injuries that the medical professionals, and you have a medical background, and so I think you'll relate to this. When we have countless acute medical episodes, as well as documented incidents that don't fall into any particular category, I think it creates another dynamic. It creates a whole other set of concerns. And so the thing that I think drives the investigation forward and drives my interest is the fact that we're seeing not only documented UFO or UAP. UAP is the now politically correct term for unidentified aerial phenomena. We see that coupled with other bizarre activity, everything from electromagnetic anomalies. GPS doesn't function properly above that property. Imagine that. Imagine the implications of our global satellite positioning not functioning on this property, that it can be absolutely shut down or manipulated. How much of our world, Tommy, is dependent on the accuracy of our satellites and our GPS? Well, on Skinwalker Ranch, it is completely unpredictable and manipulated by forces that frankly leave even the highest authorities completely baffled.
Does it freak you out, Brandon?
Yeah, I think what we are dealing with is a national security concern. I think that the fact that we have congressional hearings right now bringing these topics to the forefront, where you have decorated pilots, you have our finest F-18 pilots coming forward with their own testimony, dealing with these topics, that they have witnessed these things, they've engaged objects of unknown origin that are using propulsion or energy systems that defy any of our conventional explanation today. I think that it's interesting. I mean, interesting is an understatement. I think that it is world changing, and I think that we're in the midst of not only a renaissance but a paradigm shift in the way that our world is engaging these topics for the first time. And Skinwalker Ranch, for whatever reason, seems to be ground zero, seems to be the center of gravity, and is truly a public. It's truly a public effort where we're revealing to the public in a very transparent way what is happening, but we're doing so using completely private funds. I'm funding this. I mean, the History Channel, of course, subsidizes a lot of the experiments and the activity for 3.5 months, 4 months of the year, but the effort is ongoing 24/7, 365 days a year. I have a full-time physicist who lives on site 24/7, year-round. In fact, he spent Christmas there. He spent New Year's. Why? Because he wants to know the truth.
Hey, I'm going to ask you one thing. I'm going to keep you on my favorites on my phone. Just send me a text. Let's have a code word that means get in your Jeep, go to McCall.
Yeah.
Hide out.
Get in the get ready to be in the helicopter in 1 hour because your life is going to change.
Hey, this is fascinating. I know we got to wrap up because I know you're busy. One last thing to end on. The other Brandon Fugal thing that I love about you is philanthropy, giving back, community. That's what you spend. I mean, the best part of making money is giving back, Brandon, and you were a phenomenal example, mentor to so many for that. Talk a little bit about what community means to you, what giving back, what safety net means to you, kind of in closing, and I know that's near and dear to your heart.
No, I appreciate that. I consider myself a steward. I'm not only the steward of Skinwalker Ranch, but I'm fortunate to be the steward over the success and the business, the assets that I have had the privilege of accumulating, and I feel like none of us take any of this with us into the next life, and we have a limited amount of time to impact our community and our world. Education is a high priority to me. Utah Valley University, which is where I attended school. In fact, I had a business scholarship, a leadership scholarship there, that afforded me my college experience. And I think it's more challenging than ever for people to get into college. The cost of higher education is skyrocketed. And one thing that my wife and I hold dear, it's providing scholarships and opportunities. And so Utah Valley University, which is the largest institution in the state of Utah, is special to us. It is a focus of our interests. Cancer. I don't know anyone's family that hasn't been impacted or inflicted with cancer. My best friend since 5th grade is a nationally recognized radiation oncologist, Dr. Christopher Lee. He's out of Spokane, right on the border of Idaho and Spokane, Washington. And he's a partner in multiple clinics, and his community cancer fund and their effort to assist families is something that we also champion and make a priority. I think combating abuse. There's an organization, SAPRIA, that we're involved with that works with people who have been abused, specifically women that have dealt with abuse and are trying to work through some very serious challenges. And the list goes on. But I think philanthropy should be, it doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, what your income level is. I think there's opportunities for all of us to get engaged in our community and to be able to give back, whether it be our time, our resources, whatever. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to overcome so many of the terrible challenges that face our families, our communities. We live in incredible times. I mean, we're all carrying around essentially a Library of Alexandria times 10,000 plus in our pockets. And with this comes great power, but also you have to be responsible. And I think using the tools we've been given in this incredible age that we live in is important. I really I'm heartbroken by the things that we're seeing on a daily basis that afflict our community. So I know you're a community champion as well, Tommy. I mean, you as a medical practitioner who is diversified into the realm of development and community engagement, you're, and I would say this if you weren't on the screen with me right now, you're a great example of that. And I think it's going to take all of us working together from different backgrounds and from different perspectives to be able to hopefully come up with the answers and solutions.
Well, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you. You know, it makes me, as I'm listening to you and know you, the abundant life, kind of that life, live with gratitude, serving others, just it focuses you back. I mean, it's the whole idea of living arrows out or arrows in, right? Arrows out, I'm worried about others, and arrows in, I'm only worried about myself. And it's always been the hallmark of Brandon Fugal for me, is you live life looking out for others and helping others. You're a great example to me. Thank you so much for coming on today, and look forward to doing business together and seeing you very soon, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. It's been a privilege being with you. Anyone that wants to connect, I'm on LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. Brandon Fugal. It's just easy, at Brandon Fugal.
So it's at Brandon Fugal on Instagram,
Twitter, at Brandon Fugal. I try to keep everyone apprised of what I'm doing in business, trends that we're watching, as well as some of the more interesting pop culture interests that kind of keep life interesting.
Hey, Brandon, we didn't even get to music.
Oh,
can we do this again?
We can.
All right.
This is chapter 1.
Thanks, brother. We'll see you soon.